Good morning. Welcome again to Morning Devotions, and thank you so much for our time together. Please don't forget that tomorrow we have our great Hangers Leadership Conference. We encourage all of our leaders to be here. But right now, I want us to come back to the book of 1 John, chapter 3, verse 11. John said, "This is the message you have heard from the beginning." This is not a new message. We should love one another. Now, come down to chapter 4, verse 7. John writes again, "Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God." Now, brothers and sisters, I'm going to say something, and this is not a political statement. This is a pastoral statement, all right? I don't care about politics. You know me by now. But at some point, when you look around and you see all the prosperity that's happening in the nation now, and these are good days in our country. I mean, these are amazing days. I mean, we remember the 1980s with the big riots and demonstrations where, forgive me, we ate rice and salt. But these are beautiful days. Now, I know people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but it needs to be said. As a pastor, my role is not to stir people up about the past. My role is to teach people to walk in love. Now, young people, please forgive me. But when people want to pass on the hatred of a previous generation, and they want to pass on the bitterness of a previous generation, you need to understand that hatred and bitterness is not an inheritance. It's a curse. Hatred and bitterness, when it fills your heart, where you find bitterness, the Bible says you find every evil thing. Now, I want to challenge you today. Yes, I know there were horrible things that happened in the past. When I was a young pastor here at COP in 1980, we used to have members who had lived through World War II. And their hatred of the Japanese was so strong, you could almost cut it with a knife. And used to have to sit down with the old timers and say, listen, you can't live in hate. You can't live in the hatred of the things that have happened in the past. You can't live in the bitterness and the hurts of the past. You have to leave these things behind and move forward. As Christians, we walk in love. Now, I would say to people from all political persuasions, when you are communicating bitterness, when you are communicating hatred, when you are trying to communicate the hurt of the past, and you want a new generation to never forget the hurts, to never forget the bitterness, to never forget the hatred, that's not an inheritance. You're passing on a curse to the next generation. Please, if we want to pass things on to people, let's walk in love. This is the command that we've had from the beginning, to love one another.